I'm Christine Rothdeutsch.
And we're here today on Soapbox Wisdom to talk about commitment to other people, to colleagues, to yourself, and the difference it makes in doing good business.
Yeah, and this conversation came up the other day because of an event I had attended. And I was telling you, Barbara, how disappointed I was and how surprised I was. This was a evening, they called it a seminar. It was put on by a credit union. They were putting on a cash management seminar, and you had to register ahead of time, click the link, go and register. It was totally free. And so I did, and I thought, "Oh, it'd be a nice night out." And when I went there, I asked the woman that I knew that was part of the credit union how many people she expected, and she said, "Oh, there were like 13 that had registered." And I think I counted 2 of us in the room that were not with the credit union. And it surprised me. And as the evening went on, nobody else showed up. And this has bothered me in the past before because I know what it takes to put on any kind of event, whether it's a business mixer, a workshop, a seminar, what I know all the things you have to do, and especially when there's food involved, because they had food and drinks. And but I also know how easy it is to say yes to something, and then the time comes and it's like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go, so I I I I know I've been guilty of that myself, but m I don't want maybe I was wrong in those situations myself, but it wasn't situations, like this. It was more of just show up, and if you wanted to purchase something to eat or drink, you could. It's like, so it wasn't as though somebody was planning on the food and whatnot. But have you seen situations like that, Barbara?
Many a time, and I see it more, I think, in the evening events, which I assume happens because people go through their day and they're all charged up maybe at the beginning of the day that they're going to go to this, that, or the other event. And then come 5 o'clock, the energy levels wear down. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, that can be cumulative, just like there were only two people out of the credit union. If everybody gets too tired to attend, then where are you? And it
Yeah.
really leaves the person sponsoring the event, if they've thrown some money in to put an event on, it
Yeah.
really leaves them holding the bag financially.
Yeah. And I think this is my thought, because I know how my thought patterns of, "Oh, if I don't go, it's okay. All those other people are gonna go
Mm.
too." But we don't realize that, what if everybody else is saying the same thing?
And that is more likely than not. I mean, like you, I've been in situations where either I was on deadline and it extended longer than I thought, or
Mhm.
my energy level was so depleted. I mean, I've been guilty of doing it too. Um, I've always called up and apologized, but still, that doesn't fill a vacant slot. It's
Yeah.
really something to think about before you commit. The front end planning and the front end thinking.
Mhm.
Evaluate your options.
Yeah. It surprised me that the people didn't show up because I didn't I felt that I could be certain that there was not going to be it's not a sales pitch. It's come learn about the credit union, listen to their presentation, and they even listed in what was taking place at night and after the presentation, more networking time, and I'm like, networking? I want to meet people. Um, so it surprised me if people thought about it, oh well, I'm not going to go. Oh, there's going to be a sales pitch because sometimes at events you do have that, and people find it hard to say no. So instead of saying no, they just don't go, you know? But we all have to get
Which is
better.
worse.
We all have to get much better at being comfortable with saying no. And it's just the way that you don't have to say yes to everything. But again, I was certain that this was just gonna be a nice opportunity to go and learn more about the organization, get to meet new people, have some food, and so I was surprised, but I've seen it happen even with, networking, like, meetings that you, like, maybe go to on a regular basis or maybe occasionally, and you have to register, and maybe it's one that you don't have to prepay. Those are the ones I think most times people will decide then, "Oh, I'm not gonna go."
Because they have
What
no skin in the game.
Yeah, yeah.
But here's the thing I've found, and I find this time and again. And again, this especially happens with evening events where I think, must I put on my party pants and lipstick and go out again? I'd rather settle in for the night. And 9 times out of 10, when I get to the event that I thought was going to take me, and maybe on the front end, did take me a lot of extra energy to attend, I end up having the best time. And oftentimes, I'm one of the last, if not the last person to leave. So that's a good reminder that the things that you sometimes reject turn out to be the best and the most profitable in terms of who you meet, the most productive. So if you look at it as an adventure or an opportunity, there's a stimulus and a motivator to go.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. No, and I'm right there with you. I've been known to close places down because I'm
Isn't it
one of those.
lovely? I love
Yeah.
to close places down.
Something else just came to mind about in this realm of commitment to attending events, and I know I'm not the only one that has said it, is, what waiting to see if there's something better, "Oh, and if they don't show up, oh, is there something better to attend?" And I don't know if I'm right or not on that one, but the thought goes through my head, and I know other people have said it too. Well, even though with, getting registrations for events, and they might be slow to come in, and it's like, what, are they waiting to see if there's something better at that time?
That's a really interesting thought because I, to bring feelings into this, if you are the person planning the event and there's a ton of no shows, it's got to create a little bit of a sting.
Mm,
And, you know, maybe we all, in addition to learning how to say no, if we really are undecided or think we probably won't want to go, maybe we all have to learn how to walk in another person's shoes and think of, well, what if I were the host?
mhm,
How would I feel if 5 people who said they'd come didn't show? What was the reason? Was there something better? Didn't
mhm.
they think I'd put on a good enough event? I know we're all supposed to have strong shoulders and nerves of steel, but we are all human. And it can make us feel a little lacking in confidence or insignificant or even sad. So I think on the front end, we all have to decide how the person giving an event would feel. And by doing that, that might be a motivator for us to follow through on our commitment.
Well, and I believe that we need to take a moment or 2 before we say yes. Now, when you're online and you see maybe you see something on social media, "Oh, just click here and register," and it goes so quickly. Yeah, sure, just click that link and put your name and email address in there, and boy, now you're registered. Well, maybe we need to take more time and think, and check your calendar first, you know?
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, because
also a very good idea.
I think sometimes that's the issue. "Oh, geez, I was double booked, I didn't realize it." Well, okay, check your calendar first. check with the family if it's at family time to make sure that nothing's going on. But think about it before you quickly respond and say, "Oh, yeah, sure, I'll register for that."
Well,
That
that's that whole FOMO thing, isn't it? The fear of missing out and all the stuff in your inbox and thinking you should do this and you should do that. And we
Mhm.
do tend to click yes or register here. And again, there's no forethought.
Yeah.
And we can avoid some of this lack of commitment by assessing the opportunity, our time frame, what else we have going on with family or work at that time
Mhm. Yeah.
before we hit yes.
Yeah. Well, and another area that I see a need to think before you say yes is if you're in an organization and you have committees and stuff going on, and somebody says, "Hey, Barbara, can you help us on such and such committee?" And they might give you two quick lines of what is expected, but you don't grasp really what the commitment is, how much time it's going to take. And then time goes on, and maybe you don't do exactly what you had committed to. Well, I think there's two aspects there, though, too. The person doing the asking really needs to be clear, I think, on what is expected. And you need to
Absolutely.
really understand what is fully, so
Absolutely.
again, think about it because, and I feel good. Years ago, people would ask me to do things. Yes, I'm going to do it. Yes, I'm going to do it. Now, no, I take the time to think about what the full commitment is, and I've said no to some things. Uh,
And
but
I really think that's important. And communication is important in commitment, just what you said. The clarity of the person asking what actually is involved. Oh, it's not too much. And then it turns out to be 10 tasks on a regular basis, for example. So they
Mhm.
have to be clear and fair and honest when asking. And even if you need a night to sleep on it, ask for that night. And again, assess very carefully, ask questions if you don't understand. Make sure you and the person asking are on the same page because at the end of the day, that will make a difference in how well you follow through on your responsibility, the responsibility of the commitment, and are fair to everyone else on the team.
Yeah, and you want to avoid that friction in the future. Maybe the person that did the asking is upset with the person not doing what they said that they would do. But then that person is saying, "But geez, I didn't realize what the full commit." Now they're asking, and maybe you're thinking that they're asking you to do more than original, so that there's friction that's going to start to well up. And that's the demise of too many organizations because of the
Absolutely.
miscommunication. Yeah.
And it cuts into relationships. And it
Mhm.
also makes you an unhappy camper because I also think when, even if you talk yourself into the fact that, oh, I don't have to do this or that, it's asking too much, whatever reason you come up with, it inevitably leaves you with a little bit of a knot at the pit of your stomach because deep down,
Mhm.
you know you're falling short of what you said you would do. So there are no winners in the situation, no winners at all.
Right, right. So it's, gotta be clear. I've realized in these last few years, communication is critical, and it's kind of a side interest of mine of learning how to be better at clear communication. I think there's a need across the board in everything in life about being clear in communication. Well, personally, well, we won't even go there about
What, as a communicator for my life's work, I so support that. And it's very funny. I was having a conversation with someone today, as a matter of fact, and we were talking about the old tried and true rule of take a deep breath and count to 10 so that you don't behave badly, you don't behave emotionally, and you create a bad situation. not bad to employ that rule. Take a deep breath and count to 10 before you utter the word yes, any of it. Just be sure before you commit. It's key.
Right.
But there's something else too. Who else do we have to commit to? I to you to me, us to organizations to which we belong.
Mhm.
But we have to commit to not to ourselves, to number
Mhm.
one. How about those commitments that fall short? That's a
Mm.
problem too, talking about the knot in the pit of your stomach. When you don't follow through on what you say you're going to do, that makes you feel not so good about you.
Right. Oh, that's a very good point, Barbara. Thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely. When you think of all the things you have to do in your business, and even just maybe the to-do list that you make, and you end the day, and it's like, well, didn't get half my list done. I
Yeah,
mean, and there's other things that have to go along with whether you get everything done or not. Well, but the big thing is when you commit to doing certain things for your business and then you don't do them, there's something else going on there. And like you say, it doesn't feel good.
it
Uh,
doesn't feel good because a lot of those things that are on that to do list are big things.
yeah.
Maybe you have to adopt and learn a new technology that will make your marketing more efficient and effective.
Mhm,
Maybe you have to pick up the phone and do have an extra conversation with someone who you met at a networking event and there was interest between you and you feel that you ought to follow through on that interest by dropping them a line, sending them a
mhm,
newspaper article, sending them a book review about something you talked about. Those things can be crucial aspects to growing your business.
mhm,
So when you fail on that commitment to yourself to do those things, it doesn't feel good. And the ramifications can be great. You
mhm.
postpone things, you procrastinate, you don't do something you were going to do on Thursday till 10 Thursdays from now. That could make a difference in opportunities for you to grow your business. These are all the things you have to think about.
Mhm.
And
Well,
again, don't you think you have to assess? Not, you talked about the to do list. You could have a to do list like this. Maybe that's an unrealistic to do
mhm,
list. Maybe less is more. And so that you can really, that you're choosing your commitments effectively and efficiently, and that you actually are in a position, you position yourself really to be able to follow through.
mm,
All these little techniques, they're very small, but they're important.
right, right. Yes, and so, we talked about commitment, going to events and whether you do or not, and, now we're talking about organizations and then commitment to ourselves. The last one I really wanna talk about, Barbara, is conversations. And what I'm referring to here is, if I reach out to you and say, "Barbara, I'd like to talk, I have some questions for you." You respond to me, maybe it's an email or text message, voicemail, you reach back to me, and then I ghost you. For whatever I don't know why. I wouldn't ghost you, Barbara, I wouldn't do that to you, honest. Um But, like I said, these conversations where somebody initiates the interest, you reach back to them, and then the communication breaks down. I'm like, "Wow, you're the one that initiated. Why would you let that conversation just the communication break down?"
How do
That
you think that makes you? How does that make you feel when that's happened? And I know that's happened to all of us. But
Mhm.
how does that make you feel?
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly wondering what the heck happened. Did I
Mhm.
do something wrong? Was there something in the email that I wrote that was off? That they don't want to speak to me anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, it's rude. And again, it's unproductive because you never know what cultivating that relationship might do for each of you, for your well being, for your business.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I don't ghost people. I'll if somebody reaches out to me, I will connect with them. We'll set up a time to talk, whatever the situation is, or maybe that we're just messaging back and forth with, answering questions or something like that. But I have to tell you the time, Barbara, somebody was sending me text messages asking me about something that was taking place, and we're going back and forth, and then I was like, "But, like, I'm not sure why you're asking me, I'm not involved in that," and everything. "Oh, they thought I was." We went back and forth, I wanna say for a couple of hours. I mean, it wasn't constant, it was, stopped for
Intermittent.
and then came back again, and the conversation ended when it became evident the person texting me thought it was somebody else.
That's
And then they
actually funny. It's in a bizarre way. That's
And
actually
then it stopped. I'm like, "Okay, don't wanna talk to me."
that's funny. Now the cool ending to that would be if they discovered that you were the wrong person, but they pursued you anyway. They kind of went along with the fun of it and said, "Well, okay, my bad. This is a mistake. But who
Mhm.
are you? What do you do?" And maybe we
Well,
could
no,
have
I
a
shouldn't
good
say. I mean,
conversation.
they knew who, and that was the upset the person knew me. I was in their phone, but they mislabeled, the numbers and thought I was somebody else. So they knew me. Wasn't a total stranger. So that was difficult to take. But yeah, I encourage the audience, everyone who's listening to us today, to please don't let your communication break down. Continue those conversations if you don't want to continue the conversation for whatever reason, be polite and thank the person. Don't ghost them. That's so unprofessional. Um,
It is indeed, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. I'd love to know what our audience is thinking about our topic today about commitment, and if they're really good on commitments in their business, and yeah, it just things, I think we need to really step up our game in general, and make sure that when we say yes to something, we mean yes. I mean, like,
Conversations like this, like we're having, and I hope it makes the listeners think when they've been on either side of that,
mhm,
when they fail to follow through or somebody has failed to follow through with something that they've committed to them. And
mhm,
also, if they fail to follow through in a commitment they make to themselves, how that makes them feel and what they could do to circumvent that. Sometimes when we get these things out in the open, it makes the wheels turn, and sometimes we get so busy that we don't stop to think about this stuff because it seems so sort of everyday. But when we talk about it, we realize that we've all been part of this in one way or another.
mhm. Well, and Barbara, I'd like to finish this conversation with a challenge to our listeners. I'm not big into challenges, but on this aspect, I'd like to challenge our listeners to make commitments and keep their commitments to themselves and to others, and to realize that when someone else is involved in the mix and they break that commitment, there is an effect. So
There is an effect.
I challenge our listeners to stay committed.
It's a very good challenge for all of us.
Soapbox Wisdom is hosted by brand messaging and storytelling consultant Barbara Menino and business coach and strategist Christine Rothdeutsch. You can find them online at barbaramenino.com and christinerothdeutsch.com.